right, Paul, the tape recorder and the video recorder are on for you.
Okay, thank you, John. Bring to order meeting of the Tilton Northfield Facilities Committee, December 29th meeting, and I think it's 5:38 p.m. there. Those present are Commissioner John Silly, Kevin Waldron, Chief Setar, Lisa Martin, with several members of the public, Dennis Manning and his wife, and Paul Blaisdell remotely. So, with no agenda, I think tonight our main purpose was to review the design build proposals and offer comments on our scorecards. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
So I guess what I should do first is maybe address concerns about some additional questions that the chief, Lisa, and myself reviewed and then sent out to the two contractors, the two proposal companies, and just, I guess, acknowledge that the concerns were that the committee did not vote on those questions. They had no discussion about those questions, and that's a valid concern, and I apologize for that, for those questions being sent out. With that being said, I think most every one of those questions is one that each of us had, so I don't see I understand the order in which things are supposed to occur and the function of the committee, and I apologize for sending those out, and I guess if anyone has additional comments on that, we should probably address that first.
I do.
Kevin wants to be recognized.
Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
So what happened was nothing short of egregious. No one on the committee, never mind less than a quorum, has any authority whatsoever to, you can talk all you want. You simply cannot, under any circumstance, make a decision and carry out that decision without authority from the majority of the committee. I can guarantee you that at least two of the three people involved knew better. Paul Blaisdell has chaired many meetings. He knows the rules of quorum. Chief Setar has been to many meetings. He knows the rules of quorum. What you guys did was wrong. 100% wrong. Totally unacceptable. And in my eyes, you've brought serious question upon the integrity of this committee. We've worked 3 years through hell and high water, and you blew it.
Well, if I could comment on that real quickly, I guess I'd like to know how we've offended the integrity of the committee.
Because you did something you shouldn't have done. You cannot be making decisions. It's no different than any other committee, or commission or board. You have parameters in which you operate. You go outside that, the committee's junk. The three people involved need to step away to give this any chance of bringing anything to fruition. And if they choose not to, the commissioner should take action.
Can I add something?
You knew better. 2/3 of you knew better. There's no defense. You did it, you sent out after the fact, this is what we did. You had no authority to act. And if that's going to be the path of this committee, you can do it without me. I've said from the beginning, I joined this committee, I believed in what we were doing. I've defended this committee several times to members of the public. Been called a flip-flopper and everything else in the book because I'm the no guy. I think it was helpful for me to be here.
Can I add a statement?
Go right ahead.
I was one of the 3 people, got involved, did it all, and I all of a sudden didn't realize it till you sent that email. And I said, oh shoot, Kevin, you were absolutely correct. So I think we have to acknowledge that we did violate a procedure. Whether, I'm not used to all the technical terms. I guess the question is, it happened. How do we can't take it back. How do we resolve it? Are you saying we resigned?
There is no resolution.
Well,
You blew up the bridge. You can't cross it again. So
Well-
this is now in the public.
yes.
Correct.
Who the hell's going to trust us?
I don't think anything was done with ill
It
intent.
doesn't matter.
Okay.
It
I'm sure a
happened.
lot of things
What
prior to
aggravates
this
me
happened
the
that
most
were out
is
of
that,
order.
I mean, I can't speak relative to if you personally knew better or not.
I should have known better.
I
I will
don't
totally
have any.
admit, I should have known better. I was sick, but it's still no excuse.
If our chairman and our chief didn't know better, I'll stop breathing right now. They know better. They did it knowing what they were doing. Took action outside the committee. It'd be no different than one commissioner or one selectman or 2 selectmen or 3 selectmen on a member of a board of 5. Doing something without the rest of the people knowing and then taking action on it. Never, ever, ever, ever is that acceptable. Never. You can't defend, you cannot defend it.
Well, if you'd like my opinion, I think there's a bit of an overreaction. I think under Kevin, I think that there was no intent to circumvent any rules or procedures. It was simply an effort to get the answers that we needed in order to have this meeting tonight be fruitful. That was my intention, was to get as much information as we could. None of this is anything that's being acted upon. None of this has anything to do with money or the choosing of one group over another or trying to circumvent anything. This is simply an effort to gain as much information as possible in order to have a fruitful and meeting tonight and move the process forward.
We weren't under a deadline for this meeting today. This isn't going to the public until 24. We could have had a meeting today or not, or we could have had a meeting in a month. It doesn't change anything.
Are we talking about the conversation you guys had?
What happened was wrong.
Yes, the additional questions that went out email.
Those are not questions of the committee. Those are questions of 3 people of the committee, after a discussion that no one else knew anything about.
You made a big deal over nothing.
But is it you'd like to...
No, it's procedure. If you're familiar with procedure, you'll understand that
You got a remote person, so you got to really work with the
You know
communication.
that, Paul, know that.
Yeah. Oh, and Paul, Derek did show up.
Okay. Good evening, Derek.
How are you, Paul?
I wasn't trying to cut you off. It's just the
I'm
communication
well.
it's fine.
that's hard too.
So we're discussing, Derek, the email that was sent out to the 2 proposal, design build proposal companies with additional questions. And it was a list that was developed by myself, Lisa, and Chief Sitar. And there's discussion, and there's actually a notation that both Lisa and I should remove ourselves from the committee.
Yeah, I'm aware.
We're trying
think-
to get our hands around what the situation is, and
My opinion is there's a big deal being made over nothing. I think. I don't care. Like, we should just move forward. In my opinion.
This is gonna become a,
Well, what do you want to do? It happened. Like, let's get over it. Let's move on. We're
it's
wasting
not
time.
as simple as that when you have, this is a, what is it called, a subcommittee of the commissioners. You have to follow the same rules they do. You cannot have meetings with no one knowing and make decisions and take action on those decisions. You know, you can't do it.
All right. I left my kid tonight to have a meeting about the fire station. I'm not going to sit here and talk about things that we can move on from. If we're going to do that, I'm going to go. I don't need to be part of this committee.
That's your choice.
I realize that.
Paul,
You
can
know,
I speak?
If one of the commissioners made a decision that affected you, would you be okay with it?
What affect me? How? How is it
It
affecting
doesn't
you?
matter.
How is it affecting you, though? Is it personally affecting you?
It affects the
It doesn't affect
integrity
you personally,
of
does
the
it?
committee.
No.
It sure as hell does, because it was,
You're the only person that's affecting the integrity of the committee right now.
No.
no.
Hey, Paul, can I speak up? So,
sorry, I can't.
oh, this is John, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know, we're trying to work with communications. So, Kevin's bringing up a point about procedure. Absolutely a valid point about procedure. One of the things that
I can't understand you.
Oh! Can you hear me now?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So Kevin is, to recognize Kevin's point, he is bringing up a valid point about procedure. That is valid. You've already addressed that, and I will say that I was miffed as well to not be included in the question beforehand. But to their point also, they're addressing the matter publicly. I don't think that it totally derails the integrity of the committee. A mistake was made, and there's been times with other committees that mistakes have been made, and you bring it to the forefront, you bring it to the public, you make sure you get it out there and address it openly. Obviously, I believe that decisions like that won't happen again in the future. If it did, then it would warrant. If you have a concern with it, you are,
What is the legal side of it?
unless someone,
Being a subcommittee of the commissioners.
right. So, and now they're addressing it. It's almost like not posting a meeting, but you had a meeting and then you realize that it wasn't posted. You address the matter as quick as you can right away. You make sure it's documented in the minutes so people have accurate information of that these questions were decided upon and sent out afterwards. So we would list those questions in the minutes so that it was made to the public as an awareness. Whether or not we throw the questions away completely and take them out of the equation, or they're included as part of the equation, to part of what Kevin's saying, it does impact the assessment of one of the bidders, because looking at these questions, how one would rate them from their packet they submitted as part of the proposal to what they clarified in those questions, it would change that, so that it does have that impact. But by making it very public and documenting everything so that a mistake was made, it was acknowledged, and it's brought forward. Absolutely, it is majority of a subcommittee or the commissioners need to make a decision. I'm totally in agreement with you on that. It has happened, and that's the only way we can do it, is we make sure it's very well documented in all the minutes that we understand it happened, and this was the outcome of what happened, and still continue on. And I think that would still keep the integrity of the committee to the public.
So if we had a meeting and we discussed other things we wanted to talk to the contractors about. We don't know that that would have been the outcome.
Correct, it could have been different, you're right. And there would have been more questions and stuff potentially as well. I understand where you're coming from, but to dissolve and derail and everything, I understand where you're coming from, absolutely. And I understand a mistake was made, it's being addressed. But all you can do is you can stop everything, dissolve it, lose critical information, or move forward acknowledging that and making sure it doesn't happen in the future. That's my 2 cents on it. What the committee chooses is what the committee chooses, but I recognize what you're saying. And like I said, I was frustrated when I heard that questions went out, and it's like, what the heck? Absolutely agree with you. Not happy they went out, but it happened. Now all we can do is move forward.
How has something like this been handled in the past?
Oh?
I mean, you can't tell us this the first, I mean.
No, it's not the first
There was
time.
no ill intent, and I totally,
I
after you sent that email, I went, oh my God, because I'm
Right.
not used to being, I'm
You
used to working in the
Bring it
private
very
industry.
public as in the next meeting, which is what Paul did tonight. Bring it to the forefront, make sure it's in the minutes, make sure you address the impacts. We had a meeting that we didn't have the minutes out, and we found out after we met that the minutes never did, or the agenda never did get posted.
I think it was not, the meeting wasn't posted or something.
It was meeting with the selectmen of Tilton on something, and we didn't have it posted. We thought it was. I addressed it in the very next meeting that this is what happened at it. It was recorded, making sure you just dot everything, and if someone wants to hit you with a request of a 91A or something, they're entitled to, and we address it and move forward.
And this is Mike Seatar speaking, and we addressed that with our attorney. The attorney said as long as we bring it up at the next meeting and verbalize everything that happened and include everything within the minutes, all the documentation within the minutes, then that's perfectly legal. Doesn't mean it should happen again, but what we're doing here is, I guess, a correction of something that could be perceived as wrong. And for my part in this, and I'll apologize for my part in this, I should have known better and should have polled the entire committee before anything was sent out. So I apologize for that.
I apologize also. I didn't recognize it till it was too late.
Back to
Well,
you,
thank you.
back to you,
Does
Paul.
anyone have comments on it?
Anyone else?
Guess what I'd like to do is poll the committee right now to determine what direction we go in. If the decision is to remove me from the committee, I'll be very disappointed. I've put a lot of effort into this over the past 7 or 8 years. But if that's the decision of the committee, then that's how we'll deal with it.
The committee has no authority to appoint or remove anyone.
Commissioners.
That rests solely with the commissioners.
Which you can definitely bring the matter up again with the commissioners, and I respect that. That's due process. So the next commissioners meeting is January 4th. If anyone from the public has a concern with that, they are aware the impacts on this. That is an opportunity for them to speak to the commissioners directly to address the matter.
So is it our intention tonight then just to proceed after, do we have to read these questions into the minutes in order to have it legal, or can a copy of the questions be given to Beth?
I believe a copy of the questions can be given to Beth, but if
I think we should read them all as well for public, just because we do save these recordings,
Yep.
and that way the public has it as a record to go back to if it was ever requested.
I can do that if you like.
I think just to be safe on everything.
Well, this would be corrected to talking to. So I will read the questions into the record. The questions for the contractor, question number 1, how many projects over 10,000 square feet have you completed in the last 5 years? Question number 2, of those projects, how many were municipal projects? Question number 3, how many of the completed projects used the design-build method of construction? Question number 4, how many fire station projects have you completed in the last 5 years? Question number 5, please provide a contact reference for each of the completed fire station projects. Question number 6, of the projects completed in the last 5 years, how many were completed more than 3% over budget? Question number 7, of the projects completed in the last 5 years, how many were completed more than 3% under budget? Question number 8, does your company use software for construction scheduling, and can that be shared with the customer? Question 9, who will be my main point of contact for this project? Question number 10, how many projects have you completed with your chosen architect? Question number 11, what does the decision-making process look like, and how are we involved in that process? Question number 12, are there any services that are excluded from your fee? Question number 13, what is the percentage of your projects that are delivered on time? Question 14, do you foresee any specific material shortages or labor shortages for this project? If so, how will you handle them? Question number 15, how are change orders handled, and what are your charges for them? The next set of questions is for the architects. Architectural question number 1, how many fire stations have you designed in the past 5 years? Question number 2, of those designs, how many were for career fire departments? Question number 3, where do you get your information as to what is important in a fire station?
Design.
Yes, fire station design, excuse me. Question number 4, does your company use building information modeling, commonly known as BIM software? BIM. Question number 5, what do you see as the important issues, considerations, and challenges of this specific project? Question number 6, what will you show along the way to explain the project? Drawings, models, computer animations? How involved will you be? Question number 7, how involved will you be during the construction phase of the project? Do you check the contractor's work as the job progresses, and if so, how often? Question number 8, who will actually design the project, and will that person be the main contact regarding any design issues? Question number 9, do you usually include low or no cost sustainable design elements in your projects? Question number 10, do you provide green, energy savings, or durable design strategies, and how that may impact the construction budget? Question number 11, do you provide a return on investment schedule for those design elements? Question number 12, do you provide life cycle cost analysis? Question number 13, how many projects have you completed with this contractor? And that completes all the questions that were submitted.
Those were all submitted as additional questions.
Yes.
And they were submitted to both, equally to both proposing companies.
Okay, does anyone have any other comments or questions with respect to the contractor and architect design build questions? Okay, having heard none, shall we move on to the scorecard? Excuse me, the analysis and the scorecard for each of the proposals. So, I guess what I'll do is just leave it as an open discussion. If anybody has any notes or comments on guess we should start with Fulcrum and just let it be an open discussion.
Okay.
Do you want to go around the room for this, or do you just want people to shout out?
Whatever works best for you guys.
Well, I guess I'll start then. Concerning Fulcrum, overall, it looks to me like they'd be the best fit for our organization, but I only put my scores down, but I didn't run it through the computer to see where they'd fall out. And of course, I don't know what their fees are because they're in an enclosed envelope from Kathy in front of me. They designed more their architect designed more fire stations, and I find that the architect is the most important person in these projects. Given that experience, I think they're probably the best fit for us. I did not receive a recommendation from him from the Manchester fire chief, only because he never got back to me. So I couldn't really say how they are in dealing with the local fire chief on the fire station
Are they
project.
building a new station right now?
Yes, 9.
Building or building?
Building.
They're building Station 9.
I thought they had another project in the process.
Well, they have a design thing in process, but
Bedford?
in Bedford, but I talked to the Bedford chief, and it's basically been kind of shelved. It's been shelved for now.
Okay.
Maybe brought up next year, but right now it's,
Where did you see that they were building a place in Manchester?
Facebook.
Plus right here.
it's
And
in
it
it's
was
in the
one
paper,
of the-
it's in the
In
questions.
their questions, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
One of the things I noticed, Fulcrum, they did spell out a lot of the NFPA regulations and design philosophies, what they're looking for, and I found the other one to be more of a federal contractor experience, which is fine. I mean, it is, once again, your architect is your key person on the design process of it. How they build it, I trust that there can be enough supervision, and as long as it's a reputable company to do it, but that architect is the critical engineer portion of it, and then how they make it happen is where that teamwork comes in. And they just didn't seem to have as much public safety, or they look definitely like they're more of a federal type building company from what I've read of it. And some of their station designs, I mean, there was good and bad of it.
There you go, Nick. Okay, I kind of reviewed it based on our criteria, the A, B, C, D, which were really only down to E. F is municipal references, which we were leaving for review. So I rated each of the contractors, the design build philosophy. When I read Fulcrum's, they have on page 3, they have their philosophy, life cycle costs, whatever. I said they were spot on, and I gave them 100% for that. The other one had, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Lorero, has a very interesting background They started as an engineering firm, they acquired a construction firm, then they're teaming with an architect that was acquired by an engineering firm. It just seemed very interesting, but it was confusing that they have in-house design staff, but they're also a construction company. But they reference very little design-build projects. Thought that was,
Is a really good one.
you know, so I think they understand the philosophy, so I gave them an okay score on that, but I think Fulcrum, they do design-build all the time. And so even for B, for prior design-build experience, that's what they do. Lorero didn't seem to indicate that that was their main type of function. For C, where it said fire station function understanding, Fulcrum, I mean, obviously their architect is the one that wrote that section with all the design standards. They were NFPA, da-da-da-da-da, this does this, they talked about hazards and that. Lorero seemed to understand it, but they were using their other fire stations as examples of, we did this here and there, but it wasn't
The philosophy behind what they do rather than the regulatory.
right. It doesn't mean they didn't use it, they just didn't put it in their proposal. So I scored them less than Fulcrum. Their construction staff qualifications for Fulcrum, I thought they had very good construction staff. I also noted their project manager is an EMT and a firefighter too, which I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting. So the project manager for a design build firm is really entrenched in managing, you know, the project. The superintendent's the one in the field, the project manager in the office is key. So I thought that was, I kind of gave them brownie points for that because I figure that project manager knows what they're designing or just building.
The purpose of it.
The purpose of it and all.
Utilization.
Right. Lorero, let's see, where am I? C, D.
What company has that employee?
Fulcrum.
The one thing I thought was weird was they had a conflicting statement on the architect's, yes, they said, their construction, the contractor said, the number of projects together was many with their architect, and when you asked the architect, they said 0 for how many they had
Right.
done with,
Are completed,
worked
with and completed are two separate really questions.
Right, so that confused me, it's like, okay, you've never worked with this person before, so that kind of, maybe they can clarify that on an interview, but that was interesting. So I scored them less for that. Both have schedule and budget management programs, I gave them equal score. I gave Fulcrum's architect a way better score than Lorero's for the number of projects that they designed, and each of their staff had multiple fire stations on it. But that doesn't mean, we still have 25% to score them on.
It's something that I think I forgot to mention is that I did call the reference Lorero for the L company, spoke to Commissioner Claxton, who's the Commissioner of Homeland Security now instead of the fire chief, and he couldn't speak highly enough of Jim Hadley. He said he was there all the time, took care of any problems whatsoever, and he said he would highly recommend him. So that was a good plus with him in that respect.
And that was for the Hudson Fire Station?
Yes, and which I did tour, and it's a nice facility. No frills, good, solid, sustainable materials in it that are going to last a long time.
How old is it?
That's about 4 years old now.
How big is it?
It's 4 bays. I would say probably about between 10 and 12,000 square feet. I don't remember the exact, I have the plans of the fire station, if you want to look at them.
Do you know what it costs to build?
Yes,
Talking about the fire department,
the Hudson Fire Department,
Is that Hudson, New Hampshire?
yes,
I
Hudson, New
think
Hampshire.
it was in the information, how many square feet it was.
It was in
Yeah,
the
it
information.
was a $3 million project, 8,000 square feet.
8 million bucks?
3 million.
3 million.
8,000.
8,000 square feet.
8,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's on page 25.
Do you have anything else, Lisa?
Let's see what I had on my notes. No, I think that was it.
It's $375 a square foot.
4 years ago. They, from the original design, they did change it. The apparatus bays were gonna be drive-through, front to back, but when they actually sat the building on the site that they had for it, they turned it into 2 double deep bays and the 4 bays that go out the side and then turn and go out to the street because of the way the land was. They couldn't do a drive-through like they wanted to.
I will say that the railroad spoke more about implementation issues of an existing structure. They did talk about if they use that property, some of the mechanicals. So they were looking at that concept in the property, whereas Fulcrum really didn't mention anything to this point of the feasibility of utilizing part of the existing structure to cut down on overall costs.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. They did look at the Fox Street property and
Yeah, I
some
don't
of the
think
issues.
I don't think they know that with that corner lot is part of the property line now too, based on the property line they put there.
Maybe not.
It looked like they didn't include it, and that was part of their concern. They were looking at a 2,000 square foot place, and they were concerned about fitting it on the property,
Yes,
How
which
many square feet?
20,000.
20,000. Thank you. Which I was surprised I didn't think we were going that high.
Both of them quoted 21,000 square feet. I'm not sure where they got that
I don't know where that number came from at all.
I didn't say that. I've never said that number.
Okay.
Unless something came up when we were at the
No,
rebid.
because
Our RFQ does not say that number, right?
nope,
Okay.
nope. And that was a concern I had too, of why that number is coming into play.
They added a square foot of Park Street.
If you look at Park Street,
How many square feet is that?
that's 4,800.
4,800 plus
Plus essentially another,
14,000 square foot building.
yeah,
So that's
Not even-
18,
yeah, it's
18 or 19, you know?
exactly.
All right, moving through the group. Kevin, have you got comments?
I got nothing.
Derek?
You can skip right over me. I didn't score anything. I read through it the night the chief gave it to me, and that's about it.
I did my scoring based on the initial packets. I didn't take any impact on this because I didn't read this until after I did the scoring, the question answers.
I have not seen the question and answers.
Okay.
So, Lisa, did you review the questions and answers prior to your scoring?
Yes, Chief sent them in an email yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
so I did.
Okay. My home email does not work here, so I have not seen them. I guess what I would like to do, if you offer me the time, I will just kind of read through my comments. So for Fulcrum, they did include comments about life cycle cost analysis, which was, I think, important. Their construction experience seemed to be a little bit more limited. They seem to be doing a lot of project designs and studies. Their architect has Mr. Robachek appears to have extensive design, study, and planning experience, but limited actual project design and implementation. The project architect
Didn't say that.
has one station build, and again, extensive experience in studies. The one thing that really struck me in a very positive way was the inclusion on their staff of Miss Harder, I think is her name, and she was on staff specifically for community engagement. And I think that's one thing that we're going to need pretty extensively. Kathleen Porter is her name. And that was something that really kind of jumped out at me because I think it's going to be important to get this project moving through. So that was kind of unique. And then kind of mimicking what was said earlier, Ms. Butcher, the project manager, is an EMT and firefighter too. So, that brings a totally different perspective to the whole project, and having her as project manager, I think will be very helpful to us. For Lorero, I didn't have as many notes on Lorero. Their key person in the company, Thomas Roy, has done multiple stations. And DeCarlo and Dahl, their architects, have done multiple stations, but they seem to be more of a company focusing on projects that are either rehabs or historic buildings or real heavy architectural design. Like those are aspects of our state that we can afford, and would need something a little bit more utilitarian. So that's what I had for. Oh, and another comment was respect to them that it seems as though they focused on the Hartford area of Connecticut with their work, as far as in Windsor Locks and those areas where there's a lot of United Technology companies like Collins Aerospace and Pratt & Whitney. They seem to have a tremendous amount of experience in those types of rehabs and construction, which federal projects and also defense-related projects are not easy to obtain, and they're very strict with respect to sign consideration. So I certainly think their ability is there, that their capability is there. Whether or not they have enough fire station experience is kind of debatable for me. So that's the extent of my comments. Is there anyone else that wanted to say anything in addition?
Yes, I will comment on the community involvement. I previously worked with Kathleen Porter, and she is very good at what she does.
And who's she working for?
She worked, when I worked with her, she worked for the Turner Group. That was many years ago. And I worked, obviously, in the same building with her when I was at Quantum.
She's out with Fulcrum.
She's now with La Valley,
Oh,
which is part of the
the
Fulcrum
architect
team.
from the Fulcrum
Yes.
packet, I'm sorry.
Yes, so
Okay.
when it comes to presentations and putting materials together, she is very, very good.
So shall we run down the scores? Or, well, so, I'm sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud here a little bit. So some of you have seen the answers to the questions that went out. I think it would be wise, for me to be able to see them before I offer my final score. Chief, is that something you can email me to my work email?
Yes, was that the email that you emailed me from today? Yes, it is. I can email them to you, maybe even now. If I get my computer fired up, I might be able to do it right now.
Okay.
And this is gonna take a minute or two for it to fire up, so if you wanna discuss other things.
So when you did yours, you actually built your scores based on the replies as well?
I started it without them because I did not have them.
Okay.
And I had already, I mean, when we had those other packages where we had 5, I had already seen Fulcrum's, and it was very similar, although they did add more information in their package itself.
Okay.
So it was easier to do that. So I had scribblies, and then when I saw the answers, I kind of justified my, you know, where I gave somebody 100 or an 85 or whatever. I just thought it was good to, I put A, B, C, D in my comments for each one of them and explained why did, you know, what did I see was good, bad, whatever, and then the score is up in the table. So what we could do is compile all of everybody's individual scores into one through Kathy, is that what you were saying before?
Yeah, either Kathy or even you.
Or you collect
I
them,
can
or,
collect them and,
well, or do we do that at a meeting? I mean, collect the
Everybody pass them in
information
at
and
the
put
meeting.
it,
yeah. It's-
put it in one spreadsheet?
Well, that,
That's how we're gonna end up having to
you
do
have
it
to
at
put
the
it in one
end.
spreadsheet to score them, right?
Right, but we don't have to, I mean, everybody should finish to this point, but we still, the municipal references, did we agree we weren't all gonna call references?
No.
Right.
I do know some people at different projects, I'm kinda out of place to call them. So I was gonna leave the references for, we're directing one person to make those phone calls. But then the next step would be to open their fee and rate it. And then the next one after that would be the interview.
I think that the way we said that, the fee would come in after we kind of had it tallied of
Okay.
the A through F. We were going to do all that first.
Right.
That way it wasn't to skew towards the less expensive. Because even like the interview at the end, you're not going to have that included in there. So even if you just did through the A through F through the municipal reference,
Right, which is where we're talking right now,
Right.
basically,
yeah,
other than.
I would say still leave the fees closed for now, because otherwise it's just could lean
Yes. That
one
was
way or
our
the other, and
intent.
that's why we didn't want to do that.
Right, but we did agree we'd open the fees before the interview, so we can
Yes.
ask questions about any fees.
Yes.
So would the fees be opened at the next meeting? Is that the plan? Did you already, we haven't scheduled interviews, we scheduled the next meeting, right?
Yeah, which is in February.
February.
already.
Yeah, we had to have a gap. because of schedules.
I did figure out that I can attend electronically. I was thinking that Maui was 5 hours ahead of us. It's not, it's 5 hours behind. So 5:30 here would be 1:30 there. 12:30, right?
In the day or night?
Day.
Okay.
So that if I had to, at lunchtime,
You'd have
when-
lunch with
in the
us.
heat of I won't be out on the beach in the heat of the day anyway, so I could attend a meeting.
So back to the scorecards. Kevin, you mentioned that you had nothing. Do you have scores, or
I
do
do
you
not.
intend on providing scores?
I do not have scores.
He doesn't have them tonight.
Do you intend on providing scores?
I'm actually undecided.
I'm sorry,
I'm undecided.
Derek.
I will provide you scores.
Thank you.
And then we don't know where Tim is at.
Right.
So,
Tim is sick this evening.
no, I mean, whether he's done his scoring
I
or
don't
not.
know. He didn't relate that to me, just that he was ill.
So kind of, I think the way that we put it is everyone submit their scores into Kathy, we'll throw them into a spreadsheet, and she can tally them per person, each one,
Score.
and then
Final score.
we can come together again on the 9th and look at that, if we agree with it, or thought processes or anything, and then can open the bid then as an option.
So Paul, I've sent that email to you with those, the replies from both contractors to your work email.
Yes, I just got it.
Oh,
Well, quicker than a flight, isn't it?
It's quicker than me getting emailed locally.
good thing they weren't on Southwest.
Okay.
Okay. I guess what I'll do is I'll read these this morning, and if they make any adjustment to my scores, then I'll make those adjustments. And then, so our plan is to submit our scores to Kathy, and she will compile them.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a timeline as to?
That's what I was asking, is time period.
And I have to ask, is that within procedure
You can do it that way, because then it's all going to her, and then they will be discussed
at the next
as a
meeting?
public meeting
Okay.
together, yes.
Okay. Just asking.
Yeah, no, I understand, I understand.
I don't want to do anything that's not, okay.
Yes, so she's collecting them, she's not submitting them out to people and all this stuff, and then as a body will meet and review them as an entity. Yeah,
So we'll keep this envelope closed for now?
yes,
Yes.
Okay.
So when we fill out our F, we just leave it blank because we only have your,
Right.
Yep.
I'll,
and now, so whatever your score is becomes all of our scores.
okay.
well, it
Right.
can't explain, yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
get some more answers from the Manchester chief, because more recent than some of the other things.
But we can go into more of a deep dive now on A through E based on these as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess what my plan will be is to send Kathy my scores within the next day or two. Derek, are you on a similar schedule?
Yep, I can do that. I can give it to her on Monday.
Okay, and then
Tuesday.
as far as what's going to happen between now and the next meeting, is it your intention to reach out to additional references?
Yes, it is.
Is there any chance that they could would feel comfortable doing their references in writing, so they could like send you their reference?
I'll ask them.
Ask them if they could, and then the body could see how they. It's great that you're interpreting, but depending on how they write, each person might read something differently.
Absolutely. I'll ask them.
Okay, I mean,
I
yeah,
mean, not.
right, but we can try to ask just, and I understand the concerns with it, but it just offers that.
Did they give a reference for Belmont? I'm curious how their space needs and facilities study turned out.
No. I know people over there that I can.
Well, that's okay.
That was gonna be one of my phone calls anyways.
I just thought it was interesting they did Belmont. Space needs comes first.
Maybe they didn't like what they got.
They, well, you have to figure out why they wouldn't.
So I'll let Kathy know that to expect these from everybody. I'll if it's okay with the committee, I'll contact Tim Sattler tomorrow and let him know that if he can get his score sheet into Kathy. I don't think there's any real deadline here.
Monday's a holiday. So.
Monday's a holiday, so sometime before the end of next week, is that acceptable to the committee?
Easily.
All right,
Because Matt, you get Matt also, Matt
Yeah.
Osher.
who is working a lot right now.
Right. But that allows some time if he could look it over.
Did you
Well,
send this?
since we have several members from the public here, do they have any comments, Dennis
Public
or
comment.
or his wife?
What time's the January 4th meeting?
5:30.
Yep. Here as well.
And these proposals, these are just for designs, period, not, you guys haven't chosen a plan A, plan B, or any of that yet?
No.
Okay, you just looking to see who you're going with?
Right now, the focus is on Park Street, but they're going to do a feasibility study to see if that's the best bang for the buck.
This company's gonna do a feasibility study.
Whoever we decide upon.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, a feasibility study between the two plans, you're saying?
Cost benefit of. Help me out. You said
The
say it better.
scope has not been defined for the design-build contractor. The first step is to choose one or the other.
Right.
And then develop a scope. The scope that they're proposing on right now is dealing only with Park Street. But it only makes sense to add scope to look at other alternatives if that's what the commissioners decide.
Sure.
You add it to their scope.
Okay. I'll be at more meetings, I'm just curious, because
Mhm.
I'm curious what data we're using to just solely go with. I was worried about a Park Street option being the only option that the committee's going with, so.
That's the direction of the committee right now until, because there was a lot of pieces that came in late in the game that weren't 100% finalized. And if they're not finalized, then that can't be an option. But it needs to be discussed with the commissioners on that part of it to figure out the decisions.
Okay. And then you guys are gonna have a hearing after you guys select a.
There'll be public hearing, there'll be a lot of public hearings and stuff
Oh,
to,
I'm sure it was.
and public information nights and things like that to really sell to the public. With whichever agency involved, hopefully they will be highly involved in that as well.
Do you have a question?
I have a
Just-
comment, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a comment that if you're going to rely on just the chief doing all of your references and making all the calls for that, relying on his questions, we might want to propose some questions if we have questions about what's important to us, that we might have a question for a reference, that we could say, hey, you're deemed with that, but if anybody says, hey, this would be something important that I'd like to ask a reference, and he could just pass that information
Public
on.
hearings before.
Right. I'm not saying me personally, I'm saying the committee.
No, I know, but I'm just.
Okay.
Right,
So if there's questions for the references,
right.
okay,
Because if we're gonna base.
That's a good point.
It is, yeah,
It's a point
so,
that, you might have a question that says, hey, this is important to me when I'm asking a reference about a build project that's been completed. So, he might not have that same kind of question.
I
So
have lots of
basically, the
for the
questions
future.
for that should be developed by the committee is.
what's the references, yeah.
That's why I have this one. We can knock it over. Oh, sorry. So, okay, maybe that's in order for the next meeting, or even now.
Or even now, if people have questions that, there's specific questions that they want me to ask the references. I won't call any more references, and maybe if the committee has any questions, they could forward their questions to me by email. Before the end of next week. Does that seem fair?
Do you have some that you commonly ask?
Yes.
You have them written?
I do. You want me, I can email out to,
Okay, so we can't look at them tonight. I don't know what time it is.
It's not that I don't trust your judgment,
no,
sir.
that's fine,
No,
that's
that's
perfectly fine.
that's a very good
No.
point, Jim, thank you. It really
Yeah, I
is.
have, I can email it tomorrow. And then if you have the questions, any additional questions beyond what I have, if you can have them to me by the end of next week, I think that's sufficient enough time, I think. Unless somebody disagrees with me.
Procedure-wise, that's okay, we send questions,
So-
all of us, we don't CC everybody, is that how that
Correct.
works?
No, just
We
to
send
me.
just
You
you.
don't reply all.
Okay, I'm getting the hang of this, but it's taking me a long time.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so,
it's Paul's the chair. I'm just helping out with it. He can tell me to be quiet. So you're looking at
I'm actually struggling to hear the extraneous, and I can hear you, John, because I assume the phone's right in front of you, but everything else is kind of a blur. So I will rely on you guys.
so what the chief brought up already. Well, first Jane, right?
Yes, sir.
Brought up that we should probably have some standardized questions from the committee to review and consider for the reference questions. It's just that gives it more of a standardized fashion for it. So the chief has a list that he normally that he normally asks, and he's going to email that to the committee, hopefully tomorrow or the day after, and then the committee members can review that. Then he was saying that if there are additional questions that members of the committee think should be asked of the reference as well, to get them back to him. He was saying by the end of next week, which would be January 6th. I think I looked up the date just so that we have dates to effect.
Friday is the 6th.
Yep, so that additional questions from the committee back to the chief. The proper procedure to make sure that everything goes well is that the chief would compile them all together, and then he would send them out to everyone to review, and with a expected yay or nay back from each individually to the chief. And if he has a majority one way or the other, then he could action them. And then we could bring that up that the email was sent on this date, and this was the replies back, and the action based on that at the next meeting for public incorporation into the minutes would be the right way of doing that. But that way it would allow him to do the references before the next meeting. Yes, before the next meeting, so that when we met February 4th, we would have that back, we would have all the other stuff submitted to Kathy back, and then we could look at it all, and then we could actually break into the bid amounts too at that meeting, if that all worked out.
Okay, that sounds fair, sounds reasonable. Now, the next meeting is February 9th, right, not the 4th?
Let me look at that again. I may have said the wrong number.
I think so.
My calendar's on it.
I'm pulling it up right now. February 9th, correct.
Okay. All right, that all sounds fair and reasonable. Yes. Okay. So with respect to where we go from here, we have, just to kind of summarize, the chief is going to handle the municipal references based upon questions that we submit to him by the end of next week, January 6th. he will, in return, compile those questions into a document to send to us to approve, and we will contact the director to the very next. Our scores, the addition of Kevin who chooses Eric, will be sent to Catherine up to including the observation question E, which is for budget management. And then it's our intention to open the initial fee and the design build fee envelopes at the February 9th meeting, if we're to that point. And then, at what point do you want to start scheduling interviews, Chief? When
I
do you
guess
think
once,
that should be done, or I'll open it to everybody? Should that be done after the fee, the initial fee and the design build fee is determined?
Yes, because that
Yes.
would finalize the whole thing.
And that way, if we have questions on their fee, we can ask them in the interview.
Okay, do you think it's reasonable to open those envelopes in February 9th?
I think so.
yeah,
That
Yes.
would be my inclination would be to do that.
And then you could start scheduling interviews after that.
Okay. Is there,
Are you gonna interview
anything
based on
else to
score?
discuss?
They're both coming in either way, so that's just, sit, let me slow down. Say that again, Kevin, because of my,
One company's gonna have a higher score than the other.
yeah, but the interview is part of the score. So if they're really close, the interview may sway it one way or the other.
if everything else comes up tight.
Yeah, I mean, 10% is the interview. I guess if you do the score to that point and the 10% is irrelevant, then you probably don't have to have the interview. But it makes sense to have it.
I think you should have the interview with a few members of the committee there, yes.
I think the interview is a given. What if we score everything good and then we talk to them and you know, we just really don't make a connection?
Yeah. Yeah.
That happens quite often, even just trying to hire employees. You know,
What time is the meeting on the 9th?
it's 5:30.
5:30 at the same time.
Chief, have you had any interest in other people joining the committee?
Dennis has said he might be interested in it. Other than that, I have not heard it from anyone else. It's still on our Facebook, and the website is still advertising for positions. So.
Okay. Well, I encourage involvement from townspeople from both towns for sure. More the merrier.
Mm-hmm.
There can only be so many.
Right.
We have a limit.
Yeah. But right now we're short for Tilton, I think by 2 positions,
That's correct.
maybe 1.
Maybe.
Anything else from your end, Paul?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
What day did I say to get the replies to Kathy? Was it?
Could we do it the 6th also?
Yeah.
Everything close out on the
Okay.
next Friday?
Yep.
Close it all down all at once?
Yep.
Does that work?
And our next meeting is confirmed as February 9th at 5:30.
Yes.
And then, Chief, he mentioned there's no minutes to approve.
There are, and they were distributed electronically. I forgot to bring the written document the written version of the previous meeting's minutes with me. They're on my filing cabinet.
Has
They
everyone
were sent,
read the?
They were sent
Email?
electron. Yes, Beth sent them out.
Okay, well, has everyone read them?
no, I didn't really know, I don't have them.
No, not everyone.
Okay,
We're caught up except for the last meeting, at least.
excuse me?
We're caught up with the exception of the minutes from the last meeting.
Right, right. All right, so we'll put that off till the February 9th meeting. I guess, is there anything else to discuss?
Do you have enough people to approve the minutes that have seen it?
I've seen it. Have you seen it?
Nope.
No, not present.
What was the question?
Came last.
Kevin asked if we had enough people present who had seen the minutes to approve them.
Oh, I've seen them, so you can tally up there, I guess.
Right, so that would give us 5 people, and Lisa, have you read through them?
I did, but I did not attend that meeting, so I
Right,
can't.
and I read through them, so you might just be better to hold off.
You don't have them, Kevin?
Okay,
No.
No, I sent them to you.
You didn't get them, Kev?
We have 5 people total. Lisa was
I didn't get
had to
them
abstain.
separate.
Derek and
Previous to
Kevin
that.
had a chance, so it,
Kevin, you want
only
mine?
2.
why don't we just wait off?
Yeah.
We'll wait. Okay,
It'll be cleaner that way.
thank you for your help here.
No problem.
John.
Not a problem. I know what it's like to attend by remote. It's not fun.
Yeah,
I can't see where it went.
okay, if does anyone else have any questions or comments or concerns?
Again, not shaking heads here of no.
Okay, why don't we, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:50.
7:50 or 6:50?
6:50 your time?
Yep, 6:50. Yep. Okay.
She sent them out on the 22nd, Kevin.
See, I got an email
Just
from Kathy
forwarded it.
today about this meeting, but
Yeah.
nothing from
From Beth?
TNFD.
It came from
We'll
Beth.
send it.
I just forwarded it to you. You should probably see it in the next few minutes. It did go, according to mine.
So you made a motion. I'm not sure we really need a second and do all that, but
Okay. Adjourn the meeting?
all in favor?
Aye.
You got that much out of us, Paul.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Paul.
Adjourned at 6:50 p.m.
Good, you got that.
Thank you, Paul. See you later.
You're welcome. Take care all.
Have fun.
Happy New Year.
All right, that's off.
You too.
Where is he?
China.
China?
Yeah, I got Kathy's email.
Is he there on work or vacation?
Work.
Work.
So will the commissioners take care of that as far as appointments on the committee at the next?
Yes.
meeting? Perfect.
Yep.
I'll be there.
So yeah, whatever it said. I think it was January 2nd.
Fourth.
January 4th, and then February 9th. Okay.